All right, MA Marignon turned 70. I hope you're in your tent and you have your furs on because we're about to get hit by murdering winter. And we finished some research in blood magic. Let's see, we're up to level 6, headed to 7 for vampires, which is a bit on the questionable side. Speaking of questionable, here's our horror harmonica golem headed out. We're sending, I don't know. Okay, we sent our werewolves to a friendly province because, yeah, they don't do so well ungeared with their wolf friends. Right, we have some mind hunters online now. I don't know who we're mind hunting, but they were able to resist. Oh, actually, you know what? This is Shiniyama's Wraith Lord, so that's too bad. But they don't have fantastic magic resistance, so we're at least going to force an answer with like anti-magic items, or we're going to eliminate some Wraith Lords. And yeah, eliminating the Wraith Lords is definitely the preferred result. Let's see, bringing our skeletons in, of course. A Lich, a Troll. Now we have, from the other artifact, we have another Golem who can send Lesser Horrors, a remote attack spell. Doing our spying. Speaking of spying, we're bringing in another Black Servant. So we're going to send that Shade underwater to keep an eye out for Sea Elves. And then there's a Dire Portent, always good news. And while I cannot remember the name of this is Asphodel, and it's the one where you get hit with lightning pretty much everywhere. And so it mostly kills units, but it can also kill commanders. It's strongest in their own dominion, and I think probably high dominion also helps. It's probably a % chance based on their dominion strength. But yeah, this is a good defensive global. Makes a lot of sense. They have a lot of enemies inside their territory. They're fighting like multiple people. Yeah, this is a good cast. And will be a huge pain for us. So we'll see what to think about. You know, do we want to just spell it? Do we want to try to override it with another global? Do we want to just live with it? I have not played against it all that much. So, you know, we'll see how annoying it is in the turns to come. And then we have a number of magic phase attacks, some of which are ours and some of which are not ours. This one's ours. This is our Horror Harmonica Golem antagonizing Shiniyama. And yeah, I do suspect that they're using the army size modifier with this army because it looks quite large on the map. And we've seen that. I think that was like an immediate route here from the Bakemono. Yeah, Bakemono are particularly, especially the little guys, particularly susceptible to morale plays. Although it does look like we got sent home. Yeah, so we did a whole lot of nothing. Hang on, let's take a look. I mean, we probably just got pinged by an arrow because the Dai Bakemono are dangerous enough. We don't have a ton of protection on this golem, and Body Ethereal definitely helps against, you know, arrow fire. Yeah, so let's take a look what actually got him. Right, once they get sent home, they no longer show up in the unit overview, so I'm assuming that was an arrow. There is a kit you can forge that'll provide air shield, so that's probably what we'll throw on him, and we'll give this another shot in a turn or two. So that was a waste of Astral Pearls and a turn, but, you know, it happens. We could see that, you know, if our Golem manages to hang out for, honestly, even just a few turns, that could be pretty nasty for Shiniyama. We had already gotten the route. Of course, since none of them managed to make it off the field, Shiniyama's army is basically, yeah, completely undamaged, so that's good news for them. This is our Lesser Horror cast against some province. Yeah, okay, looks like it's one of Shiniyama's provinces. And it looks like we managed to catch, you know, a Bakemono raiding group, or maybe the remains of a Bakemono raiding group, and this probably won't go well for our Soul Torns. Bakemono are pretty dangerous. I don't know, we'll see. I would say normally it would be no problem. Okay, it does work out for us. This is a pretty good cast. Like, we got a fairly lucky roll. We got quite a few Soul Torn here. So this does work out for us. I think we have someone coming in to take the province for us. And then we get magic phased by Asphodel. This is not good news. So let's see. Yeah, this is quite a nasty fellow. He's got a Rune Smasher. That's not good. So this is probably Wind of Death. And he's got a Ring of Returning. So this is probably on top of our main army. Yep, in the south. And oh, do we have? Let's see. So I do think we managed to get turn 1 magic or anti-magic up. But of course, you know, this is mostly just humans. So, right, in fact, this particular crossbowman that we grabbed to demonstrate that, like, hey, look, turn 1 anti-magic. Alas, he is decaying. So we have, it's a little harder to tell, but yeah, you can see from these white ticks here, these 5s coming up. There are a decent number of units that got hit, you know, with that Wind of Death, and we're pretty unlikely to kill this guy. Well, we did Soul Slay. I'm not sure how Soul Slay and Ring of Returning interacts, so fingers crossed that we got him. Yep, it looks like we did get him. In fact, we even picked up his Rune Smasher and his armor. So, yeah, I mean, that hurts, right? We lose a Witch Hunter. Let's see, we lose some crossbowmen, some flagellants. We have that artifact that gives life after death. So we actually get the mage back as a Solus, and we get our troops back as Solus. Getting the troops back, not so relevant. Solus are truly awful, but the mage can at least cast spells. It's still not a very good chassis because they never heal, but I mean, better to have them than to not have them. So, of all the armies to get hit with something nasty like this, this was the best case scenario for us, definitely. I think we just put that artifact on this army as well, so, not a moment too soon. We do lose 2 of our Griffin Riders. That's a little on the sad side, because Solus are a lot less exciting than those, but still, considering how bad that could have gone just a few games ago, that probably would have been a complete wipe for one of my armies. So, we do appreciate that particular player, indeed, teaching us a lot of lessons, and we have learned not all of them, but at least some of them. Speaking of golems, this is definitely not our golem, so we're getting teleported on top of. I think this is from Ariu. He's got a Dusk Dagger, which is kind of nasty, armor negating, and causes bleeding. Otherwise, not too scary of a golem, but we don't really have anything here, so he's definitely going to be able to take out this province sense. But we do need to keep that in mind that any of our armies that we utilize against Ariu could have a golem dropped on top of it. Probably at this point, it would just be wise to assume that any large stack that's out there could have a golem dropped on it, because we're late enough in the game that any of the large powers are likely to have figured out a way into golems. We still managed to get some site searching in, but it does not help us. Our blood hunting operations, are continuing, although they are limited, still just the one province. We lose an initiate to some horrors, because I'm going to die. This is the lanterns. And then there's a whole grab bag of battles, a lot of battles, some of which are ours, some of which are not ours. This is interesting. We're attacked in Mictlan by man. I'm not really even sure how this is possible. This seems like a magic phase attack. It's a troubadour. Okay, just pinging us, I guess? Yeah, this seems like he got patrolled out. They are spies, and he's been given like some extra stealth kit, so this is just them trying to keep an eye on us. I'm not really sure why it shows up as an attack, like on the top of our list, rather than, we've patrolled out something. Possibly just a misclick by man, so we'll have to reach out and see what's going on there, but we do have a non-aggression pact, and I don't think that was them trying to break it. It would have been a much larger attack in a lot of other locations as well, if it was that case. And then, this is Atlantis just moving their army out. Pelagia, I think at this point is probably just focused on defending only their capital, and they're not really worrying about defending random provinces, so Atlantis will definitely be able to take this. Yeah, they take it without loss. Sad to be losing a few Knights of the Deep, but Pelagia is probably just light on commanders and wasn't able to collect them in time. I think this is our Lich raiding against Phalegra. Yeah. And I think we do catch the raiders, which is nice. I don't really see any province defense either, so there's a pretty good chance that Phalegra staled this turn again. Just a bit on the sad side. Probably at this point should just set themselves to AI if they're not really planning on taking any more turns. I can understand not wanting to find a sub, because, it's a pretty last stand, pretty desperate position. There is some danger here. We're taking some damage from these javelins, but we've got enough undead out. Now we're casting some terror. I'm actually amazed that these axe warriors are hanging out as long as they are. Yeah, we actually get killed here. So yeah, pretty shocked about that result. We did have invulnerability up, so I figured with the invulnerability and the soul vortex, and some skeleton cover, that would be enough. Maybe advance and cast spells was the wrong plan, and maybe just shouldn't have even bothered with the invulnerability and the soul vortex and focused only on summoning skeletons in. But yeah, that went a lot worse than was expected. On the other hand, right, the Lich is immortal. He was totally unkitted, so we lose nothing other than time. Liches do take, I think, 3 turns to reform, so that is significant. And a bit embarrassing to see losing to, 25 axe warriors that aren't even really, being scripted or, yeah, right, the player's not even home. But we sort of just threw that in there. was, yeah, normally liches raid pretty well. This looks like just a ping against, I think this is probably on top of that throne fort. This is man's, I hesitate to call it an army. It's just a bunch of undead chaff with some mage support. Probably actually just here for the undead leadership. But it looks like Asphodel is, not able to contest this just yet. But there's not a ton here. I mean, there's a lot of chaff, but there's really like no, this is pretty much only siege strength in a battle. I don't think any of that would do particularly well. And then this is us. I think this is our third time attacking this province. No, this is a different province. So we're trying to raid. Probably going to bump into a Wraith Lord here. Okay, wow. I don't know what province this is. This definitely got reinforced. So yeah, there's quite a few casters here. We're absolutely going to lose this. A bunch of stuff moved out from the fort. But, I mean, this is just a group of 8 of our knights. And, we did not have enough bodyguards there for our commander. So that's important to note that Shiniyama has a decent number of these flying fellows. Bodyguards on mages, very important. We did have some bodyguards, but we had insufficient bodyguards, because I think our knights probably could have done more damage than they ended up doing if our commander hadn't been killed. Not that they were ever going to do a lot. Yeah, so we kill one Bakamono. So this is definitely a really poor trade. On the other hand, I don't know if this is going to be enough stuff to stand up. There's a lot of province defense here. Shiniyama seems to be, investing a lot in province defense. Which is a bit of a mixed bag. Like in this case, they're doing a good job supporting it, but in a few other places, I mean, we have not been doing a good job of clearing it efficiently. But in a lot of other places, they have quite a bit of province defense that's unsupported. So I don't know, maybe they just have an abundance of money. But it seems like it might be better used, on more troops that are mobile. But I do think we have, one of our armies next door to this. This is a lot of stuff, and it's one of our armies that's a lot weaker, so I don't know if we're going to jump in against this immediately. But still, that was nicely done. I was not expecting that much defense, and absolutely hammered our raiders there. And then this is their army moving forward, and I guess... I'm not sure if we got hit with Murdering Winter. I didn't see a notification, so yeah, I'm not sure... Yeah, I'm really surprised that we didn't get hit with Murdering Winter. This army is significantly smaller, so maybe Asphodel felt like, this wasn't worth the gem investment. It's not a cheap spell, and maybe they were also planning on like just some battlefield cold fatigue plays, so maybe I misread that. The plan was never to do Murdering Winter. It was, just to hit us with, I think it's Grip of Winter. That's the cold fatigue play on the battlefield. Speaking of which, there is a global up. Okay, it's natural rain. Yeah, we're not too worried about that. People make a big deal out of rain. I mean, don't get me wrong, it hurts. It just makes fire casting more fatiguing. So, we're not going to love that. But I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal for us. We are pretty badly outnumbered here, and the flaming arrows is going to be a bit of a problem, but we do have fire resistance on our bless, and we have fog warriors up. The fire elementals are going to be very sad because it's so cold, so we're probably not going to get much use out of them. But yeah, here comes some pillar of fire. Shiniyama does manage to get arrow fend up, but we don't have too many crossbowmen left in this army, so that doesn't matter too much, and yeah, it's not going to help at all against pillar of fire. So I actually think, yeah, somebody's retreating, right? Whoever put up rain retreated, so this is looking like it's going to work out for us. Certainly not without loss. I don't know if we got a protection buff up or not. Yeah, we managed to get mass protection up, so we don't have quite as much fire resistance as we normally do, because that gives us malice. But we have enough fire resistance on the bless that we, still have a decent amount of fire resistance, coupled with, some armor. We'll lose some flagellants, of course, and it does look like we're more or less losing the remainder of our crossbowmen here. But again, with Shiniyama being able to cast arrow fend, our crossbowmen are kind of irrelevant at this point anyway. They pretty much just exist to force someone to cast arrow fend. So the assumption is that the crossbowmen aren't really going to do anything, and it looks like this army's actually going to come away with it. Well, we'll see. We do have a few fellows on advancing cast spells. Very happy to see that. You can see it really helps us out. Pillar of Fire has a long range, but the accuracy really does suffer, right? Once you start to get towards the back, and your mages are just hanging out in the back. So having a few guys advancing cast spells really does help. So yeah, that went much better than expected. We do lose the majority of our chaff, both in the form of our flagellants and our crossbowmen, right? So 54 casualties out of an army that only has 150 units. That's pretty significant, but we do not lose any mages, which is a big deal. And Shiniyama loses roughly half of probably what is their scariest army. I don't have full scouting coverage on their territory, but this is the largest force just in terms of pure troops that I've seen. Though a good number of their units do survive, including quite a few of their elites, so this army is by no means finished, and quite a few of their casters survive as well, though we do manage to get 2 of the Bakemono sorcerers. I'll have to double check. These guys might have been twice-born, in which case this is a bit deceptive, but if they're not twice-born, that is a fairly big deal. They are really expensive, and slow to recruit, so every one of those guys that we can kill is pretty important. Otherwise, the mage losses are pretty light. Didn't actually really risk a ton of mages here. There was probably more mages in that other army that hammered our raiders. So yeah, happy with this result. And then we're getting attacked by Airyu somewhere. And this is probably their army. Yeah, one of their armies. Very light mage support here. Really just the one mage. Probably more as a commander. Yeah, he's just going to bless. Maybe has some air gems. No, he just has a vine shield. So it looks like he was a raider. Yeah, who got crippled. So now he's on command duty. I do appreciate that. We just have one PD here. This is probably a place that we raided. So obviously we're not going to stop this. But I also don't think that's going to be too difficult to turn around. And again, a fairly high commitment of sacreds with a low commitment of mages. So yeah, kind of surprised. I mean, we do know that Airyu, wasn't really planning on this war. I guess it seems like it makes more sense to me to, spend a few turns to collect the mages that you're going to need, rather than sending your sacreds out immediately. So kind of surprised that, Airyu is choosing to attack us piecemeal like this. But, it is keeping the pressure up. All right, so we are going to have to, that demands a response, definitely. And then let's see. Speaking of responses, yep. So this is one of Asphodel's forts that I think maybe they originally took from Man. That Man is probably trying to retake or take. And yeah, Man, this got to be one of, if not their main armies. It looks like both sides are casting Storm. And Asphodel, has brought one of probably their main army as well out to contest this. So this is going to be a pretty serious battle here. Quite a few Centaur on Asphodel's side. Some Swarm coming out. A lot of casting. All kinds of buffs. Let's take a look. All right, in terms of globals, we know, or battlefield-wide enchantments, we know about the storms. Relief is coming up from a Great Bear, so that's probably on Asphodel's side, although Man definitely can do some transformation, though I don't really see, I don't see any bears on Man's side. So there's probably going to be a fatigue play coming out. Wailing Winds, this is also coming from Asphodel, I'm guessing. Yeah, they have the eagle, there's the bear. There probably will also be a fatigue play from Asphodel, I'm guessing, although they may choose not to, right? Because they have quite a few of their regular Centaur here that are not going to love fatigue. And with Wailing Winds up, I don't know if it's really going to be necessary for them to go for a fatigue play. Trying to combine Wailing Winds with a fatigue play is a bit anti-synergistic, I think. In terms of army-wide buffs, it looks like Asphodel has gotten Life After Death up, so their dead units will turn into soulless. They also got Mass Regeneration up. Looks like Serpent's Blessing, probably? No protection buff yet, although I do see some Wooden Warriors casting, which could be coming from either side. So, one side is at least using some more point buffing protection buffs. On Man's side, it looks like they've also managed to get Mass Regeneration up, as well as Serpent's Blessing, as well as possibly a protection buff. I saw some of these guys. Yeah, it looks like it's probably Man that's doing the Wooden Warriors, because some of their units have the protection buff, but some do not. So it looks like neither side is using a mass protection buff of any kind just yet. Okay, Darkness coming out, that's got to be from Asphodel, and Rigor Mortis as well. So clearly Asphodel disagrees with my assessment, or just feels it's worth it. We also have Firestorm coming up. That's probably from Man. And then we have, let's see, Foul Vapors from Asphodel, Relief from Man, so an anti-fatigue play, Howl from Asphodel, and then Rain of Stones from Man, which is not something that you see all that often. It doesn't deal a ton of damage, but it is just, AoE, the entire battlefield squares randomly get hit with, I think, about 10 damage stones. They're more likely to hit the head. And I honestly have no idea who that's going to hurt worse. A lot of Asphodel's units are kind of chaffy, so they don't have a ton of armor. but a lot of man's mages, right, are just wearing robes, so a bit of a scary spell for both sides, as long as no protection buffs go up, because it doesn't deal all that much damage. So I'll go ahead and turn on team colored squares and just go ahead and let this run. Ugh. Alright, well I've got dual colored squares on for all the good it's going to do. That looked like a doom. Someone's spellcasting was interrupted, not that surprising. Looks like probably some flaming arrows from man's side. Which certainly could be relevant. Yeah, I see some centaur getting set on fire. I think on the balance, I don't know, it's hard to say. The centaur are probably better than a lot of man's units, but the chaff, you know, are pretty awful on Asphodel's side. So man probably has the better quality army. And it does look like Firestorm is, you know, doing a lot of damage, especially like the chaff seems to have just completely disappeared. The centaur as well. I don't know if some of them were on attack rear. No, not really. We do see some mages retreating on man's side. Man definitely is on the clock here because, you know, Wailing Winds is pretty powerful and will definitely cause retreats. But it looks like man is going to come away with this fairly handily. I'm not sure if it's Firestorm that's really, like, you know, doing the work here. A lot of man's units just naturally have more armor, so they're more resistant to it. But yeah, quite a few of these units, you know, have no protection buff. So, you know, it looks like Firestorm, like, you can use that. I don't know. We'll see what the mage cost is, right? Yeah, there's a lot of mages running off, probably because they've been taking some damage from Firestorm. But still, a lot of Asphodel's mages have fallen asleep, probably from their casting. But also, you know, rigor mortis doesn't really help with their fatigue situation. Man also has some of these independent Pegasi warriors who managed to get into the back line and are going to help make sure that these mages don't escape. Some of them might be twice-borned, but it's unlikely that all of these pans have been twice-borned, because it's a pretty expensive spell for these larger size units. So this is going to be a pretty nasty loss for Asphodel, and is probably spells like the end of them being able to offer, like, I don't know. They're not going to be on the offensive anymore, I think, anywhere after this would be my guess. So yeah, we can bail out of this. This last pan, he really is, yeah, wow, maybe we shouldn't bail out. He has quite a bit of protection here, and if, you know, the longer that man takes to deal with this, Wailing Winds at least is gone, but, you know, they're going to continue to take damage from their own Firestorm, so, like, if they can't manage to get rid of this last pan, this can actually turn fairly painful. Okay, so they do manage to get rid of him. I don't think he, you know, spun the battle out too much longer. So let's take a look at what it cost everyone. Yeah, wow, Asphodel loses almost everything, and their army really just doesn't do that much. These mannequins really are truly awful. I think they died to Firestorm pretty quickly. I'm surprised at how little the Centaur warriors ended up doing, like not a single kill to their name. And, you know, this is just a massive amount of losses. I'm not actually sure what spell this guy put up, but he did account for the majority of Asphodel's kills. Losing 10 of these fellows, yeah, 300 gold, slow to recruit. This is pretty rough. It was not free for man, however. They do lose 3 of these Black Witches, which are independent, but they're not particularly expensive. They are slow to recruit. They lose 6 Crystal Sorceresses. Kind of a similar story, though not slow to recruit, but limited since they are foreign recruit, so they probably don't have too many provinces that can pop those out. They actually only lose, let's see, they lose a couple of their others, so they lose 4 of their own national mages. They don't lose any of their cap-onlys, which is nice, because it's slow to recruit and pretty expensive, so mage losses aren't as bad as, you know, I feared for them. And in terms of kills, we can see that Firestorm did quite a bit of work, but I have to say, Rain of Stones, I'm actually kind of surprised. It did quite a bit of work as well in terms of the kills. In terms of losses, overall, this army is definitely still ready to move forward, so while painful, not the end of the world. Lose 40 longbowmen, that's not such a big deal. Again, arrow fire this late in the game, not that relevant. They only lose 3 of their sacreds, so that's pretty nice. That's pretty important. You can see they do a decent amount of killing. Yeah, you can see like 91 longbowmen, 6 kills, like, yeah. I do think it's useful, right, just to force the answer, but wouldn't count on them, especially at this point in the game. They do lose 30 of the Landless Knights, who are decently expensive. Yeah, actually, they're cheaper than I thought. So that's actually not too bad. You know, I mean, they have 180 of, well, had 180 of them, but still, they have almost 150 left. So yeah, again, this army from man is definitely ready to move forward, and I think this is a pretty crushing defeat for Asphodel. Moving on, we managed to take some province that was not defended. Happy about that. And then let's see, we get attacked in Nazca. I was thinking that this is probably going to be a Wraith Lord. Oh, or 3 Wraith Lords. Okay, so we had a chance against 1 Wraith Lord. We do not have a chance, I do not think, against 3 Wraith Lords. Although they are just going to sit back and make undead. We certainly could have more fire elementals, sorry, more fire gems on this fellow. Yeah, I think he's only going to be able to summon in 1. If we were going to summon in more fire elementals, we might have a chance, right? Because, you know, we have some banishment and like some fire casting. Yeah, like the undead, they don't love fire casting. But with this much undead regeneration and like this little, you know, fire casting, I don't think this is going to work out for us. Yeah, there goes one of our mages. So probably should have been more heavily patrolling this province, but just wasn't thinking about the fact that the undead could cross the river. So this is unfortunate because we do lose a decent amount of province defense investment, and we get our recruitment blocked. But we do have enough mages left in here that it would be unwise for Shiniyama to hang out on top of this fort. I expect he probably won't and will split out and start to raid a lot of our territory. But we do have a lot of counter raiders already in place. That said, I do think our counter raiders will struggle with Wraith Lords, even 1v1, and especially if he keeps them together, we're going to have to beef up our counter raiders in that area. So that is unfortunate. And then we catch a battle between Ulm and Asphodel on top of Phaeacia's capital. I think this is, yeah, just there were some only birds were here last turn, and it looks like they've been maybe magic phase reinforced or regular phased. He's got one of his thugs here. One of these Iron Angels with some kit, kind of offensive oriented, maybe also worried about assassins with the water bottle. And he's also got a hero here who, alas, is just a human, fairly heavily kitted, but it is middle-aged Ulm, so you can kind of get away with these things in terms of wasting gems. Not really sure where all the undead came from. It looks like Asphodel was kind of also just expecting there to be a few birds on top, so I do not see this working out for these mannequins. On the other hand, like, yeah, losing a few mannequins, not the end of the world for Asphodel. And then we take control of another province where no province defense was left. I'm not really sure where these locations are. We'll have to take a look and see like who is not leaving province defense, because that's probably, I mean, maybe Asphodel, although I do think most of their provinces have PD in them, but they are the ones who are most likely to not have money. Sadly, this is a place, okay, this must be, yeah, this is in Aryu's territory, so we just sort of abandoned this. And let's see if these raiders have fire resistance now. No, only a Great Sword of Sharpness, which, yeah, I mean, Great Swords of Sharpness are good, but we don't really, we have stuff that might require a Great Sword of Sharpness, but we haven't really been raiding Aryu with it. So I'm not sure about that one, but yeah, it works out against 1 province defense. That's not likely to ever stop an elf. And then we get raided by Shiniyama somewhere. I don't know where this is. Oh, right, this is this Bakemono group. And I do think we moved out, yeah, quite a few answers. Yeah, we just have some initiates here, so we're relying on Pillar of Fire spam, yeah, and, you know, some province defense, although it's kind of the, oh, hey, we have a, yeah, fire elemental back here as well. Excellent. Yeah, so we're able to, the morale is really not great on these Bakemono. You can see, though, the flagellants, if they don't have some sort of protection buff, they tend not to do so great. So we are able to turn that around. Glad to be rid of those raiders, since we've been losing territory in other locations. We definitely didn't kill them all, but they don't have a ton of places to retreat to. We also have a few retreats. A witch hunter, a cowardly witch hunter, who at least retreated successfully, but I don't think we're going to be seeing much from that raiding group, even though some of it likely survived. There's a good chance the commanders didn't. And then this is another raid by Aryu, fairly deep in our territory, I think this one is. And we do not have anything here for them. That's sad. So yeah, there definitely are holes. So Aryu may be, like, they may have just gotten lucky, or, you know, they may be looking specifically for holes. You know, we are trying to shift units around. Like I said, we are trying to have counter raiders in every province. But again, this is a bit deeper than I was expecting them to end up in. But clearly need to do a better job of sending more units out. Let's see if this guy has fire resistance. Nope, just the standard kit. So he's definitely going to be able to handle this. But I also don't think it's going to be too hard for us to get rid of that fellow. So, you know, it's not ideal, but also not the end of the world. I think this is our army that does not have any gems moving forward. Yeah, but we weren't really expecting much in the way of resistance. Although I do think this puts our army next to that force that destroyed our raiders from Shiniyama. So the fact that our gem carrier has arrived is very important because we may have to fight a relatively major battle with this army in the next turn. And then we get raided by Asphodel somewhere. I'm not sure where this is. Should probably stop saying that because that pretty much goes for most of these provinces. Interesting. So they bumped into, and this was not intentional. In fact, it's kind of unfortunate. We're just trying to shift these paladins over because we recruited a bunch of paladins somewhere, and like we need to get them other places, other armies. So these paladins, they don't really have any kit. They don't really have anything. In fact, I think they're still set on casting spells. So that's kind of unfortunate because they are expensive. They do at least have fire resistance. We do have a fellow here. This is not part of the province defense, so it's not like we have no defenses here. But we do lose at least one paladin, maybe two. We lose two paladins. So that is sad, but such is life. And we'll hopefully get those guys into a fort and hand them their great swords of sharpness so they can deal with thugs and super combatants that are going to be coming after our armies. Although it looks like Soulslay, we want to have both options in our army because you never know when you're going to run into a fellow that has a lot of magic resistance. So that kind of works out for us. In terms of like resources lost though, like those two paladins, like they're 145 gold each, right? And like 7 centaur warriors, like it doesn't really, resource wise, that was not good for us. But we definitely have more income than Asphodel, and obviously Asphodel's fighting more people. Well, I don't know, actually. We might be fighting roughly the same number of people, but I think we're in a better position. Definitely we're in a better position gold-wise. Right, these are our bats, our Camazots, who are just going to do a little bit of Skelly spam against a little bit of province defense. I don't think they have great morale, so the fact that we're in Dark Skies is a little on the scary side. Yeah, morale 7. So I think all it would take is like one arrow to hit them, and then that would be it. Luckily, the skeletons do not have morale, so that's less of a problem, and I do think this is going to work out for us, but it was not without danger. And certainly if we ever run into, 6 PD, like this pretty much only works against 1 PD. I don't know. Maybe against a really easy province defense type, we could handle 6. But it would not take too much to turn that force around, so we probably won't do any more raiding with these Camazots. But still, we managed to take a province. Always happy about that. And then we get raided by Shiniyama. Also, location, a mystery. Ooh, this looks like kind of in more of our core territory. It's just a small Bakemono raiding group. But we do have a witch hunter in place. So I think we're going to see a little bit of Pillar of Fire, or maybe a Fire Elemental. Oh no, Pillar of Fire. So yeah, this should work out for us. This is one of our forts. It's kind of interesting. I don't know who these crossbowmen are. It doesn't, they wouldn't be part of just some random province defense. But still, it works out for us. So I mean, we have defenses in a lot of locations. Yeah, it looks like it wasn't one of our forts. So this is just some... I think this is actually those crossbowmen that failed to take that province from Shiniyama. Speaking of... Okay, we're not there yet. Let's see. This is some raid against Aryu, which maybe is a werewolf? No, this is our Bakemono. And this is also, I think, against, just 1 PD. So this is not that many Bakemono. So I think this is another situation where 6 province defense would... I don't know. These guys are pretty dangerous. They pack in so tight. It doesn't look like there's that many of them. But still, it wouldn't take that much PD to turn a group like this around. But since there's only 1 province defense, we are able to take that. So that is nice. And then we catch Asphodel attacking a neutral province, which is kind of interesting. I'm not really sure. I think this might be on top of one of their forts, which is probably why we were interested. Just some Vinemen and, their leader. And they are up against, just some mannequins and their leader. I'm actually not really sure how this is going to go, right? It's like the evil Vine people against the neutral Vine people. So there's a lot of vines, a lot of vine on vine action. If you're into that, enjoy. But yeah, otherwise not much to this battle. Looks like the evil vines come away with it, and not without too many casualties. Well, no, I lied. There's a decent number of casualties. You probably really, I think, whatever battle you fight with the mannequins and the carrion beasts, there's going to be casualties. But still, Asphodel takes that province, so I'm sure they are content with that. And then I think this is the location with all the province defense where we have failed many, many times. Well, okay, just 2 times. We'll see. Maybe possibly 3 times. We have some mercenaries going in. I think flaming arrows eventually. Yep, there it is. And eventually, hopefully, firecasters moving forward. Pillar of Fire. We got our monkeys throwing things that are now on fire. Horse-headed fellows doing decent work for us. Definitely looks like there's some casualties. A little bit of terror as some of that PD managed to get to our back line. We did have a few bodyguards, and we do come away with it. So we lose a few things, but nothing that we care about. And we do finally take that province. Yeah, so we lose, some mercenaries, some crossbowmen. That is totally worth it. And again, I think this is the problem, like these unsupported province defense situations. I mean, yeah, I have not done a good job of demonstrating that they're a bad idea, but I do believe that they're a bad idea. Maybe if you're up against more competent players, they'll be able to show that to you more quickly. And then this is the fort that Man was on top of. This is that massive army that participated in that major battle, and they chose to storm immediately, and in this case definitely going to work out for them because there's nothing inside this fort, so they're able to take it without too many losses. In fact, perhaps without any losses. Yep, no losses there, so I'm sure they're happy about that, taking that fortification. And then this is from that global that Asphodel put up. So let's see, 17 units were wounded, 6 were killed, nobody was a commander, right? So it's kind of irrelevant at this point, but we're also not in any location that's heavily in Asphodel's dominion. So this will get more painful as we push farther into their territory. So we'll have to see if it's worth a response or not. For the moment, though, we can live with that level of casualties. Let's see, we get rid of some vagrants, which increases our resources in this province. Not really too relevant. Hey, plus 20 defense. That is nice. And that administrator is correct to be fearing our neighbors because we have a lot of elves and we're getting raided a lot. So plus 20 PD is a lot and is relevant. And then, yeah, I mean, got to pay for that PD somehow. And so we lose some to some bureaucracy. Right, there's an arena death match, which we sadly did not participate in. Looks like the elves and Man and Utgard went in as a crab general. Did he get any kit? No, just a crab. Just a crab man against, let's see, was like a diseased mage? No, I'm not sure why this person is injured. They have a chest wound and they're twice borned, so just some skelly spam. Skelly spam is pretty effective, so I think crab guy, yeah, he's in trouble. The crabs are actually surprisingly tough. Like, yeah, I think you can get them as troops, and they're pretty nasty underwater troops. They might even be amphibious. But they definitely can't handle, one of them can't handle Skelly Spam. Let's see what Man sent in. Okay, sent in one of his cap commanders. Actually got some kit, although an Ice Scimitar sadly is going to do really poorly against the undead. And, the Lion Pelt is nice, but he already has fairly good armor, so I think he's screwed. Though, I said that the Lion Pelt, yeah, there we go. Especially the giants. That's kind of cool that Utgard, they can summon giants even with their horde of skeletons. So, yeah, that does not work out for Man. And Utgard comes away with it. They get the Champion's Trident, which I don't think is going to be particularly useful on that mage, but they've got it. And then, of course, foreshadowing things to come, no doubt. Here's another Yisk Scout that we catch somewhere in a location. And then we're under siege in Nazca, which is sad because we lose a good amount of income from that. We can't recruit there. That's those Wraith Lords from Shiniyama. And then we have breached the fortification that we're sieging of Phlegras, and also from Shiniyama, and the place where I was expecting to get hit by Murdering Winter, but did not. And then we're still trying to break down. This is the location that, we kind of have it's more than a token force, but not a true army. But still, we're getting close to breaking the walls down. Kind of surprised they didn't get attacked this turn, because there are some Asphodel raiders that are nearby. So Asphodel may just be bringing more troops up and getting ready to push us off the fort. They do have time for it. And then there is some patrolling, and I will catch you guys after the jump. All right, this is the situation and some of what we're doing about it. We have our army trying to storm on Phlegra. This is extremely dangerous. We've talked about this before. Also, Phlegra seems to be back, so there's a pretty good chance that this turn we'll get attacked, and then assuming we win that attack, we'll then storm. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Extra gems have been distributed, but there's a good chance it won't be enough. Everybody is pretty diseased here, so this force isn't quite as strong as it looks, but it's done pretty well in the past, so fingers crossed that works out. We're also going to send forward our much reduced army against what Shiniyama brought out. Definitely should have taken a closer look at the map. This is Shiniyama proper, so makes sense that they are defending this pretty strongly, and then we weren't able to just take it with some little raiding group. But I also feel like there's a decent chance that there's no reloads with this group. We'll see. We're about to test their gem logistics, and this is still a fairly strong army, even though it is reduced. So, fingers crossed that that works out. Can't say I've really done a whole lot of thinking or planning on it. Just, we have an army. Let's send it forward. This is also the turn that we will start fighting Xibalba. So, we're sending out a raiding group. I think the werewolves are actually going to attack this forest. So, fingers crossed that it works. I mean, yeah, we've seen how the werewolves don't do great. Although it is important that we get rid of these forests because Xibalba does foreign recruit their bats out of there, I'm pretty sure. That's why there's some Zotz warriors here. It's hard to say exactly what they're going to do, but they have, pretty substantial stack here on their capital, and then they have a smaller group here. These mountain passes are closed, and the bats can fly, so they might try to fly the bats over to do some raiding, or they might collapse both of these groups onto this fort, I would guess. I mean, this is in their cap circle. It's kind of the most logical target. It's also possible that they try to go for the throne. So if they go for the throne, we have like our normal patrolling, so there'll be some fire elementals. I don't think this group can make it to the throne in one move, so we might have enough here to turn around this raiding group, but pretty good chance that the throne would get locked down if this group attacks it. But like I said, I think it's more likely they combine. We've got stuff. I hesitate to call it an army. I think, we got mass protection here. That's good. And Serpent's Blessing. We're risking an artifact in battle. That's never ideal, but, it is what it is. We have a decent number of knights here, and a decent number of flagellants, but you're going to get the benefit of a bless. The fact that it's in a cave normally would be good for Xibalba, and probably still is on the balance since it's only our sacred units, and we are going to have some regular infantry that are going to be participating in the battle. They're not going to love being in the dark, but the majority of our army is sacred, so I don't know. We'll see. Fingers crossed on that one. We have a little bit of province defense there as well. We are trying to mind hunt the same target, right? So there's, 3 Wraith Lords on top here or something like that? Yeah, 3 Wraith Lords. We also have this fellow. Speaking of artifacts, really, this is supposed to be, risked in combat. So yeah, we've given him some flying boots. So he's, going to do a little bit of buffing and then try to fly to the back. And yeah, it'd be nice to give him a magic resistance amulet since those Wraith Lords, I think, have like Bane blades. But he has a fairly high max age. Giants are a little less susceptible to decay damage. And he does have a ring of regeneration. So, we'll see. He is Twiceborn. The Twiceborning will not work while we don't hold the Twiceborn location, which I'm assuming is Phlegra. If we were to take that, then the Twiceborning would work for us, but it won't work for us yet, so we'll see. Fingers crossed. I mean, there's nothing particularly inspired about this kit. It's partially just what we have laying around, but the Infernal Sword is pretty dangerous, and, this guy is pretty dangerous, so decently high hopes. There's also a pretty good chance that they move off, in which case, I don't know, we'll see. We're dropping the Giants off here, and then we're sending this fellow off to this location to get him kitted out, although I don't think we're really forging him kit this turn. So anyway, that's the Xibalba situation. Assuming we actually win some of these battles, we'll probably also strip the troops from this province, Old Man Mountains, and join up and try to actually take their capital. There's also a good chance that we may need to divert to deal with, if we lose against Phlegra. So we'll see. This is still kind of in the balance. We are bringing up other reinforcements, so this will potentially block some raiders. Yeah, okay, no, never mind. This is... Uh-oh. Okay, no, they are still moving. So yeah, this is to potentially block some raiders. We are moving out some of our skeletons, basically the stuff that's on top of Mictlan, as sort of another army, but with the hopes of actually combining it. Yeah, we can move from this province. Okay, so we're not too far off. So, if Xibalba somehow manages to jump on top of the throne province, we should be able to recombine on top of the throne and then push on Xibalba, or, maybe push up this direction to deal with Phlegra. We shall see. Otherwise, plenty of mage movement in the interior. I know I did claim that I had patrollers in every province. That's definitely not true. We are starting to run a little low on mages, so we definitely, we don't have full coverage, but we still have pretty good coverage, and so we can take back like whatever area takes. So yeah, we're going to continue to have elf problems, but as we continue to recruit mages, we'll move them out into the provinces that we're missing. We're also retaking this province. I meant to reach out to Flagia, but definitely did not. I don't think this will be a problem. I mean, they can't draw resources off of it, and now they can't draw income off of it. And I don't think they're ever, going to unlock this fort, so it's not a big deal, but still would like to give them a heads up. Also would like to let them know that, I'd be happy to forge them, whatever we can. The gem situation could be better. It's not quite as bad as it looks. A lot of gems are out with scouts with various armies, so, depending on how much resistance they run into and how heavy the fighting is, we will hopefully be able to unload a lot of, reloads that we don't end up using. So, our gems are low, but not, critically low. We definitely have some wiggle room depending on how our armies do. But anyway, would like to offer some support for the final battle, because the longer that, you can keep Yis busy, the better. To that end, I am a little bit concerned that we've seen, no action on top of their capital, and now this is their capital here. Yeah, and particularly because Atlantis has moved here. I have a feeling that Yis has agreed to allow Atlantis to take the capital. In which case that Yissian Doomstack is probably on the move, and probably on the move in our direction. So yeah, we need to try to reacquire that, and there's a pretty good chance that Yis is no longer busy, and that we're about to become even busier in the near future. So anyway, we've the werewolves. This is werewolves down here. This we're still working on. Surprised that we haven't gotten hit with any murdering winters. Maybe this turn, right? I forgot to storm with this group last turn, so we're storming this turn. So many diseases. Fingers crossed that our more valuable units and casters, or really just our more valuable commanders, don't get disease. But yeah, if you're an undead nation, if you can put a fort on top of a well of pestilence, that's definitely something you want to do. Some more werewolves down here. We're pushing our main army forward, to continue to threaten this. There is some risk in that there's a lot of stuff here, and we don't really have a ton. I mean, we're recruiting more stuff, but yeah, we don't have a ton to resist it with. It's mostly garbage, so that's not too bad, but I mean, there's at least one serious mage here. So as soon as we move away from Nabaa, this kind of releases that force to, go attack us. We do still have at least a decent number of witch hunters and archocephaly, so we'll probably try to cobble something together that's going to sit on top of Nabaa. Like I said, we're really not going to bother until at least spring, so, that's, 2 more turns, probably 3 or 4 more turns. And in the meantime, we might just jump on top of this fort of Shiniyama's. Like I said, we really want to try to, put the pressure hard on Shiniyama and knock them out. I think I have no plans in knocking Asphodel out completely. It's going to be way too painful. We can't do it. We have too many other irons in the fire. So, I mean, Man and to a lesser extent Ulm seem to be making some progress now. Asphodel is like far from knocked out. They have a ton of garbage in their capital, a white mage, a bunch of other nasty stuff, no doubt. Plenty of chaff in this fort and probably other nasty stuff. And I'm sure they have other things actually related to that. What we saw, I missed it. I believe that was their pretender. Because I was a little bit confused, the one that jumped in and was going to wind of death us. Because I was a little confused as to why so many death gems. This just seems like way too many death gems, right? Because you cast Wind of Sleep once normally and you just fall asleep. But then I saw the paths on this fellow, and yeah, this is Asphodel's Pretender, so pretty high pathing. Probably could have gotten off quite a few casts of Wind to Death. So we definitely got very lucky. We had a pretty good roll. We also had this fellow back here, this is the fellow that saved us. So, it's not complete luck, right? This guy used an Astral Pearl to get himself up to Astral 6, and he's got plenty of penetration gear, and, he was the one who was responsible for soul slaying and kept this on the less painful side. But like, yeah, this could have gone pretty bad. We can see that there was one fail, and the fail was from the Shadow Seer. And then we got a good roll, right? This exploded once, at least, and then we went up against a pretty low roll. So, I mean, I do think that this would have worked out for us. Like, we did have enough penetration that eventually, if our guy didn't fall asleep, this would have worked out for us. But still, we got pretty lucky here, so it is important to note that. Also of note, which I actually just saw right now, the imps from that lifelong protection were super useful because even though he got off the first wind of death, he then started fighting with the imps. So just goes to show, like, if you can get a little bit of flying chaff in your army, it really helps provide some cover. Probably the easiest way to do that, assuming you have some blood, is a lifelong protection. But even somebody set up to turn 1 cast Swarm, it's not going to fully protect you, but it will help against stuff like this. So anyway, something to note, because I'd missed that it was actually their Pretender. I just saw that it was something horrible. And I imagine that it's not the last horrible thing, and of course, since it's the Pretender, it can be recalled, so we will see that guy in our future, I suspect. Otherwise, we're also storming here on top of this fort. I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of stuff in here. I can't remember. This is one of our stronger armies, so, yeah, our armies have been doing pretty well against Shiniyama. I'm pretty confident against whatever is inside, although it could be empty. Yeah, I can't remember. One way or the other, we'll find out. One thing I will say is, again, we don't really have any dedicated storm groups or siege groups, so, having our main army that is really effective in battle be tied up on top of this fort for a couple turns is not ideal. And if I was being more efficient about this, and certainly in the future, it's, I don't know, it's always easy to say in retrospect. I'm not really sure that we have the resources. I feel like a really good dedicated storm group for Marignon or any Fire Nation is some Terracotta Warriors and then just a casting Firestorm, and then just see, it's like, does that do the trick? Because probably for a lot of defenses it would do the trick, maybe some Jars of Fire, Fire Elementals. But I mean, yeah, we've been using our Fire Gems for a lot of different things, and I just really have never had a moment where I felt like we had enough surplus to actually make some Terracotta Soldiers and just set up some groups like that. But anyway, so this is just kind of inefficient. Just wanted to point that out, but it should work. And then we have this other army, whatever thing, group of soldiers, the mercenaries. We've seen pieces of it, mostly fire stuff, fire elementals. Oh, hey, we have Army of Lead in here. That's good. Things like that. Hopefully we have more than just that gem reload. Surely there's some other fellow coming. He's on the way. He's getting loaded up somewhere. Yeah, I can't find him. We'll have to double check that next turn. The horror casting is going to be down here, and our friar is going to keep on moving. We'll probably jump on top of, I don't know. We'll see. Tianqi is pretty empty. There is the remains of this army here that might move into Tianqi to block or may try to attack our army again. We'll see. Of course, the main goal definitely is the throne, but at the same time, the quicker we can kneecap Tianqi, the better for us. And sitting on and taking a capital is definitely going to cut pretty deeply into their gem income and their money income, whereas the throne is useful. I'm not even sure which throne this is, so actually might not be super useful. But this is some random wasteland that's not going to make any money. So while the ultimate objective definitely is the throne, at the same time it's kind of like, well, the only people that border it, right, are Shiniyama, they own it. Then we're already fighting them, and then the other person that borders it is Eryu, and we're already fighting them, so it's like there's not really a need to rush per se. So yeah, we probably will jump on top of Tianqi next, and then we may let this army take over the siege, or yeah, I don't know. We'll figure it out when we get there. We're also going to try to destroy this little raiding group that got bounced. This is a bit dangerous because we're really low. Yeah, we have almost no bodyguards. We are at least summoning 2 fire elementals, so hopefully we won't get wrapped. But we've seen that Shiniyama is not afraid to dump a bunch of PD, and I do actually think that a major province defense dump here would be a big problem for us, just because we're going to have a bunch of squishy mages. That said, I mean, we are throwing a good number of mages in, so we're going to have a ton of fire damage coming out. We might just rout the province defense as it gets close. It's a risky one. So we'll see how that goes. We're dropping the Horror Harmonica Golem on this force, I think. And then, Werewolf is attacking here. Werewolf is attacking here. I don't know. There could be some other werewolves out there. We're also continuing to try to, build up an army here. So we're bringing this force over, and we'll see. We might not actually get there. I don't think we're patrolling. Yeah, that was probably a mistake, because we've seen that the Horror Harmonica Golem is definitely a hit and miss construction. I haven't really had a chance to rethink his gear. I'm not sure if... I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure if there's better gear. Probably there's better gear for him out there, but he's still got the same gear, so good chance that he fails without doing anything. And in which case we'll probably get jumped on and we'll lose this province defense. I don't know. Is this really even worth saving? The advantage of hiding in the fort is that this turn, or next turn, we'll be able to break siege and we'll have all this in support, so probably still better to hide in the fort. This eventually will be the force that we send against this throne, although it will probably need substantial reinforcement, and of course we're still trying to move our friars up to help create a little path of dominion for us. Also related to that, I don't think I mentioned, but we did forge a stone heretic, right? Or sorry, stone idol, which gives you heretic 3. Heretic is an ability, I don't know exactly how it works, but it just eliminates dominion that's in a province, no matter who it is for. So is currently reducing our own dominion. We'll continue to do so until we sneak into Marignon's territory. So the friars are only a level 1 priest, so preaching against even 3 candles is a bit rough for them. I mean, if you have a lot of friars, sure, you can do it, but once you start to hit 5 or 6 candles, the friars, I mean, maybe eventually if you have enough, it'll work, but we don't have that kind of time. So, we're going to try to use the stone idol to help reduce areas, provinces that have more dominion. I'm expecting Ashdod will probably have a decent amount. We do have to be careful about being patrolled out. It's a fairly expensive item to make. Yeah, 20 gems on that bad boy. Definitely relevant gems that, we have other uses for. So far we've managed to park a lot of scouts on top of Eriu's forts. I think Eriu has been doing a good job of garrisoning their forts, but not such a good job of patrolling their forts, because I think if they were patrolling with all these units, then we would be losing scouts. So we're probably safe to move the stone idol on there. I don't know. We'll see. We're probably going to risk it. And I think that more or less covers things. Let's see. Research, I think, is still our blood silliness. Yeah, this is a bit questionable. There's definitely some useful 9s out there. I was like Flames from the Sky. That's a late game thing. We're fire magic. I mean, we have a lot of uses for our fire gems, and I think it's 30 fire gems a cast. I don't even know if there's any good targets out there for us. But Yis, a lot of Yis's troops are just going to be, kind of garbage. It's probably not going to deal with their sacreds very well. But I'm thinking, when Yis comes in, we're not going to have a whole lot left to deal with that Doomstack. So Evo 9 might be nice. We're still pretty far off. I don't know, pretty far off, six turns, something like that, give or take. So, that'll probably be useful. Enchantment 9, I was thinking, let's see. I think there's Gaia's Blessing. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of resistance buffs that we're either lacking or having to use a lot of mages. This one, just gives you resistances across the board, so you can kind of just drop out a lot of mages and have them do other things, and then you can just focus on okay, this is our one, resistance blessing, although it does take nature gems, which we're really low on, and this pathing we will have shortly, actually. That also other research, super speculative, Thaumaturgy 9, right? That would be great. I think the nice thing about that is, I think, astral travel. Yeah, so we could probably figure this out. And this is the same as Gateway, except you don't have to end up in one of your own laboratories. You can just go anywhere. So this would be pretty useful to end the game. Just astral travel a big army onto some throne province that people think, there's no way Marignon can get there. And then, surprise. So we'll see. I mean, this is 2 9s behind what we already have. We might cut Enchantment 9. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. This is all pretty speculative. Even the Blood 7 is pretty questionable. But related to our new pathing, I thought I'd claim this throne. I had not. So this would allow us to recruit gnomes, right? And has very relevant pathing for that spell we were just looking at. So we're shuttling over one of our Holy Threes to go ahead and claim that this turn. And then, yeah, recruitment-wise, like, we're trying to recruit troops, up here in areas that we are feeling less secure. And so, like, yeah, down here on top of Vandar. Otherwise, though, not much in the way of troop recruitment. I'm sure we've cut plenty of mages in places. Maybe not our... Let's see. Here's a place. No, yeah. We have a mage there, maybe on top of Micklin when we cut a mage. No, pretty good mage production. So no mage production here because we're locked down. So maybe that's why we were able to squeeze out some of it. I think we even assassins, right? Because expecting this fort to get sieged. Maybe should have done the same thing here. Yeah, we recruited just a witch hunter. Also potentially should switch over to adepts of the Silver Order. Yeah, it's just with slow to recruit, and there's a good chance the fort's going to get locked down, so it wouldn't finish. This way we can at least push out one extra witch hunter. Anyway, sort of just rambling now, so yeah, that's more or less what we're up to, and we'll see what madness unfolds next turn. That was turn 70.